All right, we should be live now. I've just reset all of my computer system here the other day, so I've just got to pop up one of these comments here and resize it and get it all back to normal. But welcome everybody. It's October the 11th. It's almost the end of the year already, man. This is crazy stuff. So welcome to the live stream. This is basically just a straight up Q&A, hangout, all that kind of stuff. Talk about some of the stuff I've played, what's coming up. A bit later in the year, all that kind of thing. So welcome everybody. I'm a bit more caffeinated than normal. The last few live streams have been pretty flat because I'd woken up and not really said anything for an hour and then went live. And yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. The next one, as John pointed out earlier in the chat, he's was asking for one later in the day, which will be the case next time. I was unable to do that today, unfortunately. So welcome everybody. Hopefully it's all working. Let us know if there's any issues with the audio or video. We should be in business, and we'll check the chat. Now, I just saw a pop-up. All right, already did this. All right, we're good to go. Looks like it's all working. If you can, folks, leave a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Really appreciate it. YouTube's getting harder to reach people and all that kind of stuff. So just to let you know, camera's here. Comments will be over here, which is why I'm looking kind of across the chat, or across the screen, I should say. All right, let me see what I can pop up on the screen here from the pre-live start here. All right, so we've got Serious Amplifications here. Welcome, mate. Thanks again for being a channel member, mate. I appreciate it. That's awesome. All right, John's here as well, mate. That's awesome. We need to do a hangout like we did in the old days, Jamal. Yeah, I agree. The problem is it's hard to do, and the version of this software, it already cost me like almost a couple $100 for the year. Actually, I think it's like $230. And then to get the group hangout, it's like another $150. It sort of sucks. So, yeah, I don't know if there's an easier way to do that where we can keep it like easy to do, because the hangout thing isn't unfortunately available anymore, which really does suck. I'm not sure why. I kind of know why YouTube got rid of it. It was easy to exploit, but I would have loved to have seen like a new version of Hangouts. It makes so much sense. I don't know why this has to be outsourced to third-party software manufacturers. But anyway, it is what it is. Jamal's here. Welcome, mate. Hope you're doing well. Hope your hand's feeling all right too. All right, I've been filming the last couple of days. I'm sort of back at it. I had a slight break there while everything was scheduled up a little bit ahead of time. And I shot a Gretsch video and a Reverend video yesterday. So they'll be coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned. I very rarely get to showcase Reverend guitars on the channel, and it's one of those brands I always enjoy playing. So stay tuned. I hope you like the videos coming up. All right, we've got Brent here. Welcome, mate, from Georgia. I think he was one of the first in here. Welcome, mate. Thank you for joining in. John from Texas. Awesome stuff. I noticed on my PRS video, I'll come to this in a sec. A few people from Florida were saying how crazy the floods have been. I actually didn't think it was as bad as it was. I saw some of the east coast of Florida, and it looked insane. So I hope everyone's doing well, and hopefully everyone's okay. All right, Robert says he brought Zach Meyers 594 today after seeing the video. Hey, thank you, Robert. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That guitar's so good. It actually, the funny thing is, I didn't assume it would be better than the Silver Sky. And I thought didn't. Oh, hang on. Let's try that again. And I was sure it wasn't going to be as good as my custom 24, and it is. It's a better guitar. It feels so good. It's light. The pickups are unreal. Like PRS pickups, for me at least, anyway, are a bit hit and miss. I kind of like how clear they are on the top end, but they lack a bit of that sort of girth. In like a Les Paul, I know they're a different guitar, but sometimes they're in the middle. And those pickups are right up there as some of my favorite humbuckers. So congratulations, mate. That's awesome. If anyone missed that video, I'll put it down in the comment section, in the description after this video. You can check it out. It's super cool. Looks and sounds good. Awesome. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Punk Rocket's here. Welcome, mate. I like your I like your little avatar. All right, HL Cotton, how are you, mate? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for all your support, mate. Says, good evening from the United States. Great to see you live. Thanks, mate. Thanks for joining in. All right, cool. Hey, I know we've got a few people here already, but if you are watching, double check your notifications if you can. I feel like they've like been broken lately. I notice when I watch a lot of other channels, notifications aren't popping up. I've been speaking to a few other creators about this as well in different niches. So yeah, just see if they're still working or disable them and re-enable them or whatever if you do use them. And you'll be notified of the live streams at least anyway. So that's cool. Alrighty. We've got Steve. How you doing, man? From Argentina. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Chopper's at work, so he's listening only. That's all right, man. I used to do that a lot. Put the ear thing in and listen to stuff while I was working. All right. I like this new time slot you're live streaming in. It means us Aussies can catch it a bit easier. Hey, thank you, mate. Yeah, this is kind of like, I know it's a weekday and it's before lunchtime here, but it feels like a pretty universally easy time, even for folks in Europe or Argentina. It's not ungodly late or early in most spots around the world. So, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I do plan on shooting another one, or maybe the next one, or streaming later in the day next time, if it works out. But this seems just to work really well. Hey, thank you, Jeff, for the super chat, mate. He says, hey, Shane, I'm looking to get a Marshall amp and the tube versions are out of my reach. What solid state Marshall do I recommend? The MG30FX amps are really good. If you just want a practice amplifier, that would be the way to go. And if you can stretch for a valve amp or a tube amp, try their DSL5. Like 5 watts for a home amp is plenty loud. And on the back, you can switch them right down. Those things are great. Now, in terms of the valve state amplifiers, they're not really around anymore. You might be able to find them on the used market. They're kind of like a solid state version of a DSL amplifier to some extent. But you're not going to find too many straight up solid state amps from Marshall anymore other than the MG30FX series ones. And they're really good. The 15's good as well, but I think the 30's just got a bigger speaker, a little bit nicer. And it's basically a solid state amplifier, but with digital delay. I think it's got tremolo and a few other effects built into it. And those are really good. One of my favorite sort of home practice amps. Another one I'd recommend too, if you can find them currently, are the new Nuix amps. The I know that's a different brand, but the Mighty Mark II amplifiers are really quite good as well. I've been using them on like 5 watt mode and they're great. They're the perfect volume, but it's a different sort of amp. So if you want to keep it simple, the MG, I think it's the 30FX is the way to go. And thanks for the super chat, mate. I appreciate it. George, he says, hello, Shane from Athens, Greece. The country of nice pedals. You already know. Best wishes. Hey, thank you, George. Yeah, the Greeks make the best pedals in the world right now. It's not even close. I mean, Japan and the US are right there, and Australia make great pedals as well. But the majority of the great stuff is coming out of Greece. It's unbelievable. They should start making amps because they're like the ultimate mix of like visual aesthetics, which means nothing at the end of the day, but it's cool to have a pedal that looks good, functionality and tone. They're one of the few pedals you can turn everything to 12 o'clock and have it work. You know, if it's a dirt pedal or a distortion, overdrive, whatever, they just work. They're all like that, man. Chikalis Audio Works, Jam Pedals, VS Audio, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others. They're all crazy tube circuits, far out. Yeah, just top of the line stuff. My pedal board's almost exclusively Greek pedals, apart from my tuner. Oh, actually, I've got my Shelly Pony Boy on there, which is like a clone. Made in the US. That thing's great. It's great value as well. So there's exceptions, obviously, to the rule. But yeah, the Greeks, man, they're on a tear. I don't know what's going on over there, but they're in a whole different league. And I'll tell you what, mate, I'd love to get over to Greece at some point. I reckon that would be amazing. Just, yeah, that would be super cool. Just 26 years of loading bags at the job, getting old. Yeah, it's in relation to your hand, right? Yeah, man, it happens. I tell you, it's it sucks. Yeah, any sort of RSI stuff is full on. I didn't get notified on the last live stream, but I already knew you were coming on, went to join, and you were not even on my feed despite still showing a subbed and notifications enabled. Happens to me too. This is what I was talking about. This is why I think sometimes disabling the notifications and enabling them again is probably the best move. A good friend of mine who lives overseas, I follow his camera channel, and I've had to turn notifications on like several times because they just don't get through. I don't know what's going on. It's getting frustrating. I actually spoke to my YouTube contact, and well, not my YouTube contact, but someone at YouTube, and it was like, what's going on? Like, it feels like notifications are broken. Oh no, everything checks out. I'm like, yeah, great. So basically, this is how it works now. If nothing goes viral with your immediate views on your feed or however it works, videos just don't get pushed. It's a real shame, and I'm sure it's different for different people too. Those who tend to watch probably more videos than others might see more videos on the feed, but I don't know. It's getting frustrating. It really is sometimes doing this, but yeah, that's kind of another reason why I've sort of like been uploading a little bit less. I'm just sort of plodding along at the moment. I'll ramp it up again for November and December, and then I'm going to take a break. So right now I don't really know what that looks like, but it'll be most of Jan. I'll probably just do live streams and upload the odd video. I'm just going to sort of take it easy in the first part of next year. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Oh, by the way, I should also point out I'm taking a week off in November, but I'm going to have stuff still scheduled for that week. I'm working on all of that currently, so stay tuned. I'm going to try and bring some content from somewhere else, as I always do when we travel. I kind of don't want to spoil that right now, but yeah, I'll definitely be sharing that with you coming up. So yeah, hang in there. Nick, welcome, mate. I like your little guitar there. It looks like an Ibanez, is it? Is that an Ibanez? It looks like a nice guitar. Anyway, welcome, mate. Thank you for joining in. Hey, Drew's Drum Tracks is here. Good morning to the YouTube guru. Missed the jam. Missed you at the jam Sunday. Maybe we'll get a bash together at the next one. Yeah, I needed a bit of just downtime, man. I got slammed last week with a bunch of different projects, so hopefully I'll make it down this next. I don't know if I'll make it down there this weekend. I'll see how we go anyway. If I do, I'll text you, mate. If anyone lives in the Melbourne area, hit the Lyrebird Lounge, Blues Jam if you're interested in the play. It's really cool. It's some great players go down there. It's like any jam. It's mixed, but you got Drew, one of the best drummers in Melbourne there, and the rhythm sections make or break the night. If you've got good players, especially drummers and bass players, the night is much better than it could be otherwise, because a good guitar player with a bad rhythm section is a bad set. You need the good foundation there. So yeah, thanks, man. I'll shoot you a text. Maxwell is here. How you doing, mate? Hope you're doing well. Thank you. All right, cool. Hey, thanks, Jeff, again, mate. I do appreciate it. Has anyone had any experience with Filtertron pickups on a neck pickup? So Fender had a pickup in. Is it? Let me just. Yeah, so the ones I'm thinking of are Fidelitron pickups, which were basically like Fender's version of the Filtertron. They were basically a Gretsch pickup with a different name, as you can probably tell. And those things are great. They got a very different sound to them. Dr. Rick had a black Telecaster for years with Fidelitron pickups in the neck and one in the bridge. So it's like a dual humbucker thing. And that guitar had heaps of mojo. I'm shocked he sold it in the end, but well, actually, I don't know if he's still got it. I don't think he has, but that thing was great. It's edgy and it's noise free, and it's got a very still got a Telecaster vibe, but with more output, basically. Maybe not quite the sting on the top end, but plenty still. So yeah, I would say they're a very good pickup for folks who are looking for something a little bit different. They're a better, at least in my experience, a much better choice than some of those Fender humbucker pickups, which can either sound great or they're very muffled, especially the ones that they put into the, I think the Broadtron ones, is that what they're called? They put them in the 72 thin lines. Anyway, that's my experience listening to them. While I haven't played a guitar that actually, in a lefty that has them, I've been around them a lot. Like Rick used to use that at the gigs we did all the time. So yeah, it's great. I think we actually put a video up about that guitar. If I find it, I'll link it in the description after this. What are your top 5 must-have blues tunes for a set? Well, I kind of like take tunes and kind of butcher them. No, not butcher them. I kind of just change them up. So I love As the Years Go Passing By, that Albert King song. I guess for some people, Gary Moore kind of made that famous. You know, it's good knowing some sort of standards as well. You know, Tore Down's another good one with a few stops. It's maybe a little bit more interesting than just chugging along. But there's nothing wrong with the chugging along ones either, right? You can really make those work. I do the Chris Kane song a lot, Good Evening Baby. I really like that. I take a riff he plays in another song and I use it for that. You know, there's so many great slow blues, man. I think there's a few that are just overplayed. Like, I don't know how many more people want to hear like Stormy Monday and, you know, God forbid, like Mustang Sally and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say those are like some of the ones I hear a lot. A lot of dudes will do Crossroads and it was a different feel, and I think that's what it's all about. I was always like trying to play a song that, with lyrics at least, with a different feel. That was always more appealing to me than just playing it the same way as some old recording. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, by the way. That's great. You know, Messing with the Kid's a good one as well. I don't do that myself, but I actually like that song. It's got that reoccurring riff. And yeah, there's so many. I don't even know where to start. But yeah, there's a few to get you going there. Thoughts on the small Supro combo amps for home? Yeah, I haven't had enough experience with those. I got asked about that a little while back, and I like their amps as a whole. I did hear one of their like really small combos a while back at a shop, and I found it a little bit on the brittle sounding side. And I also heard that on some of the videos I looked up as well. But that's not to say they're all like that. And this was like, I think, one of their smallest valve combos. I think for home practice, it's more about like something that is flexible in terms of volume. So I would probably, unless it has a sound you're really loving, keep a bit of an open mind for home practice stuff, because you know, some of the things I really enjoy using aren't your conventional sort of home tube amps or anything like that. They're just like, I'll use a digital modeling amp. I might use a desktop amplifier. Just things that aren't loud and easy to move around. But that's not to belittle Supro. I actually really love their amplifiers. Some of them are fantastic. So yeah, I would need more experience to give you like an educated opinion on them for that specific use case. All right, we've got some poor man's Monster today. We're drinking this. Not sponsored by V, unfortunately. Or I'd be balling. That would be great. Actually, I'll take a Monster sponsorship first. White Monster. You know, when I was in the US about many years ago now, I was there for 8 or 9 weeks one time, staying at a friend's place for a big portion of that. And that's when I found White Monster. And when I got home, we didn't have any of those in Australia. Because I don't drink coffee. I drink these kind of weird vitamin caffeine drinks. And yeah, I actually emailed the company. I was like, you got to bring these white ones to Australia. I'm like addicted to them. So I'm not taking credit for it. But eventually they did. So that was great. All right, D-Max says to Jeff, Marshall does a 50 effects, also has an effects loop, whereas the 30 doesn't. Oh, there you go. That's great. I've used the 30 enough to know that it's a great sounding amp for just plug and play stuff. But if you need an effects loop, there you go. Very cool. Notifications, something up with YouTube. I think Short's making things messy too. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like I've actually got a, you're gonna laugh, I got a plugin on my browser that blocks YouTube Shorts. If you use Chrome, you can find it. It just stops them from showing up in your feed. Obviously, if you're on your mobile phone, it won't work, but or if you're using the YouTube app. But yeah, I was just sick of getting served videos that were like not interesting. Like it doesn't even like find the videos that you're interested in. It just shows you a whole bunch of crap. So yeah, I've just sort of like blocked that. And that helped a lot. Just keep the feed a bit more focused for me. But yeah, there's definitely something going wrong with the notifications, or at least there are on my channel. It could just be getting to the point where the channel's kind of starting to tail off, and that's fine too. I mean, the YouTube thing's kind of, you know, you can cruise up for a while and then people just sort of tune out. It could just be that. Like, I got to take that into consideration too. So, and that's totally understandable. I've been doing this for a long time and it is what it is. You know, like when people say, oh, you know, share the videos and all this, click the like button, all those signals help so much with YouTube. And I've noticed that even a video that gets, you know, 500 comments and it might get shared more than all my other ones. No one clicks the like button much anymore. It's kind of, unless they really enjoy it, or it you know, emotionally triggers them or something, you know. So yeah, it's definitely a different thing. I wish they had the dislike button still. You can get a plug-in for that too, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Oh, here we go. When Dita and I went to Greece, we found a jam bar in, is it Nakos? Is that how you say that? They made some calls and we had the best night I can remember. Man, that is so cool. That's great. Awesome stuff, man. There's nothing better than going somewhere else and having to play. First time I played in Chicago, it was one of the best times I ever had. I got to play with this dude who passed away, unfortunately. Two guys, actually, John Jewell and Sammy Fender. And the dude let me play all night once I got up, because it was a once-off kind of thing, and it was so good. It was so good. It was, yeah, that's great, man. They're the memories you... This is why jamming's so good. You know, it can be the most frustrating thing in the world a lot of the time, and it can be the best thing in the world a lot of the time. And some of the best jams I've had are with you and the rest of the dudes, Brian, and, you know, there's just been some magic moments jamming, and it's so good. Hey, we got David Melbourne from Michigan. Welcome, mate. Michigan's a place I've spent a bit of time over the years. That's awesome. Oh, yeah, here we go. Nick says it's a AR520. Very nice. In reference to his guitar. I like it. Let's see if I can just make these a bit... Oh, there we go. This is pretty flexible. I like this program. All right. BMAX says in Orlando, fresh off the hurricane, sucked. Power came back on. Oh, man. Far out. Yeah, that's brutal, mate. Sorry to hear that. How long does it take to get tidied up after all of this? Like, I was there once where a small hurricane came through and ripped a few trees out of the ground at the airport. I remember it was the year I bought my G&L electric guitar. We had to get off the plane. We're on the tarmac. We had to get off the plane. It was lightning and wind and everything. We had to run back into the airport. I was like, oh, man, this isn't good. And then we're looking around and there's trees ripped out of the ground. And that's obviously a very minor thing. They can fix that pretty quickly. But, yeah, I always wondered how long it takes for, like, severe flooding to get tidied up, because that's brutal, right? Like, all the cars and homes and stuff. Far out. Americans will be bored at home November 28th. Thanksgiving holiday might be a good day to drop some content. Hey, thank you, mate. That's an awesome tip. I appreciate that. I'll see what I can do. I'm going to try and have quite a few videos going up in November this year as opposed to December. Whether or not the month is full, I don't know, but I've already scheduled a whole bunch of those like short videos at the opposite end of the day. Just content I found from trips away and guitar videos from years ago, and I found an archive of stuff. I was like, all right, I'm going to just release these as short videos. Because the first few trips I did overseas to Jerry's, those videos never really went anywhere. Like, they did well, but they weren't, obviously the channel was a lot smaller. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to repurpose some of this content and make some extra shorts. And hopefully you like them, because there's a bunch of great stuff. But yeah, hopefully I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, mate. I do appreciate it. Oh, mate. Far out. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. That's crazy. Eric says, last Friday I bought a brand new Fender Pro 2 roasted pine Tele out of the box. Plays really good. Replaced the strings with 9s. Now the B string has a buzz. So this could be a pretty easy thing to fix, right? All you need to do, it could be a couple of things, but generally all you'll need to do, I'm tipping if that's the only string that's buzzing, we'll start there. Then you don't need to worry about like like pulling the truss rod around, all you'll need to do is raise that saddle up a hair. So just do half, like loosen the string on the B string, turn the saddle Allen keys or hex keys, whatever you call them overseas. Just turn them about half a turn, not even, like even just a little bit less, both, and it'll bring it up evenly to where it's already set, and that should be enough to fix it. And if it isn't, you can just do an extra turn, but you shouldn't need more than that. Usually slight buzzes aren't the end of the world, and you shouldn't be too concerned if you hear a bit of buzz on a Strat, and then if you can't hear it through your amp, then you're good. So that's one of those things too. If you're playing it acoustically, it sometimes doesn't matter if you can't necessarily hear it when you're playing through your amp, unless it's affecting your playability. I'm sure it counts what you've watched. I had random old Hangout show show up in the feed. I watched it, then a few others. Nostalgia kick. Now I'm regularly getting 1 or 5-year-old In the Blues videos in feed. Wow, okay, far out. Yeah, you're probably right about that, actually. I was watching some old Red Letter Media stuff the other night, and I'm like, when did this come out? Oh, this is old. And then I was like, oh, okay, so now I'm getting all this other stuff from back in the day. So there's definitely something to that. Helton says, I've watched you since 2013. I bought my Squier Classic Vibe Telecaster after your video. Great guitars. They're super cool. One of my favorite Squiers of all time, the Classic Vibe Teles. So congrats, mate. That's awesome. Thank you for all the support. Is it a blues jam if no one plays Mustang Sally? I tell you what, it's the greatest night in the world, man. That song, yeah, it's such a great tune that's been butchered. It's like when you go to see a cover band and they're butchering like April Sun in Cuba, or no one wants to hear Jesse's Girl anymore, right? Like, not anymore. At least to my knowledge, anyway. Let us know in the comments which songs you think are arguably the worst cover songs in cover band history. I would say April Sun in Cuba in Australia, and what's another one? Yeah, Jesse's Girl, just overplayed, man. Just brutal. All right. Hey, we've got Eric here. Welcome, mate. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining in. All right. A whole bunch of folks here already. If anyone has any questions, by the way, let us know. I'll try and answer them if I can. For those who have just joined, I got a couple of new guitar videos in the works, so I'm going to finish editing my second one, which was a Gretsch, and the first one, which was a Reverend guitar. So they'll be coming up pretty soon. Happy Thursday, everyone, from Daniel. Awesome stuff. Thank you, mate. With Shorts, you have to hit the 3 dots menu and tell it if you don't like a video, or it just counts as watched and gives you more. How ridiculous is that for like a user interface thing? And by the way, I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're right. But I'm just saying, like, how ridiculous is that system? It used to be dislike, show me less, right? It doesn't work like that anymore. It's just mental. All right. Yeah, we're talking about this before, mate. I wished everybody well, and yeah, it's a terrible state of affairs, man. Yeah, hopefully everyone's okay. SM says, what's your opinion on completely replacing amplifiers with modelers and the amplifier industry increasing the price of amps? Well, the thing is, everything's going up, right? You can't just say it's amp manufacturers, because Fender raised their prices every year. Gibson raised their price every year. Whether that's equal or more than inflation in other parts of the world is another thing. Import costs will drive up the price of guitars in different locations around the world, and export costs or whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's not one thing. And just to answer the question about the modelers, I think there's the right and wrong tool for any job. If I'm playing live, I'm not using an amp modeler. For me, that doesn't work unless you've got a PA system and a sound guy and a fallback, and everything's going to work. For me, I much prefer using an amp. It's just better in the room, sounds better to your audience, and it's easier to adjust. You got your pedals, you got your sound, you're good to go. But for recording, or if I'm doing something where I don't want to be loud, the modelers are the way to go. And there's great modeling amplifiers you can play live with as well, but that's a different, that's sort of like in the middle there. So you've got all these different things from passive, no speaker solutions, like the Kempers and the Helix and all that kind of stuff, to digital modeling amplifiers that have speakers, which kind of that middle ground. They can be used as an audio interface, they can be used for recording, they can be used with headphones, and then you've got your stuff like the Kemper, which has made recording for me like impossibly easy. I've got all my amp sounds in there, I turn it on, I'm good to go. And I don't think, as much as I know there's talk of, oh, the amp industry is dying or whatever, I just think for most people who aren't going out and playing live, they don't need a 2-rock amp or a Friedman or a Marshall stack or anything like that. I don't need that stuff necessarily either, right? You got to just pick the right thing for the job. And I remember when I bought the PV Classic 50 down here, I thought to myself, is this something that, how often am I actually going to use the PV Classic 50, because it's a beast? But for the times where I can use it, there's nothing better. There really isn't. Like, using an amp in a room is so much fun. And you've just got to kind of pick the right thing for your scenario. And for what I do, I'm in a bit of a unique scenario. I do play live. I used to play live a lot more. But I also record almost daily in here, right? Like, I'm always doing something. So, if I'm practicing, I'm using something that keeps the volume down now. I'm more cautious of looking after my ears when I'm in the studio, because I spent many years like blasting away in here when I shouldn't have. So I try to keep that in mind. Does every band in Australia play the song "Keep Your Hands to Yourself"? Yeah, that's not every band, but I have heard that a few times. It definitely isn't like maybe the most played song from cover bands, but I have heard that quite a lot. All right, let me scroll down. Oh, no, you're right, man. No, it's all good. We were talking about this before. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So, yeah, I hope everyone's okay, man. But I need to catch up on the news too. I haven't looked at it over the last sort of 24 hours. So, I need advice on a new loop. I've had the Boss RC1. It was okay, but that was years ago. What's your recommendation? I mean, what's it doing or not doing that you need? Because there's a few loopers now that you can kind of set up your recording clean and then play over it dirty. I think it's like a phone app situation thing. Yeah, I always felt like I used to have a Boss RC3, the dual pedal one, and I found it overly complex for something that should be pretty easy. The drum machines weren't great. I would almost suggest maybe just buying a small practice amp with a looper that has a foot switch, because if you can turn it on and off and loop and do all that kind of stuff, you're pretty good. Joyo has it's a DC15S amplifier. It's this little cube thing, and the looper in there was great. It was one of the main reasons a few of my friends actually picked that up, was the loop station functionality. I haven't really tested a whole lot of like dedicated loopers lately. Most of the ones I've tried they've been part of a bigger pedal, like a multi-effects or processor pedal. So yeah, I'm not really sure what you're looking for, because the Boss one, while it's got the drum machine and it can record and do all that kind of stuff, I'm not sure what it is you're really looking for there, or what you know what that doesn't have is what I'm trying to say. Have I ever played through a Bassman amp? I have, absolutely. I've had them cranked on the YouTube channel several times. So go to intheblues on YouTube, search there, just type in Bassman, it'll come straight up. Rick and I blasted those out a few times at Sky Music, and then I did a video at my old house with one of those. And yeah, I got to say, I wouldn't buy one of those amps for myself. You've got to turn them up far too loud to get kind of like the sweet spot, and they don't have reverb, which is a bit of a downer. For me, I'd rather a super reverb. I find them more usable, but I love the sound of a cranked Bassman. They're pretty great. So yeah. I've seen young crowds go nuts for Jesse's Girl, Summer '69. Oh, there's another one. and songs before they were born. Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, like, Living on a Prayer is another one, right? Everyone just knows it for some reason, even if they weren't born anywhere near the 80s. So, yeah, there's songs and anthems that transcend the decade they were they were written in or released in. Hey Shane, watching your PRS ZM video, I noticed the brass saddles on mine need a bit of a polish. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the brass stuff inherently sort of gets a bit tarnished over time. I know even my brass saddles on my Telecaster, they're basically brown now. So yeah, not the end of the world. I wouldn't be too concerned with that, mate, unless they're rusting or something like that. But yeah, if you want to clean them up, go for it. Is a modeler a good replacement for all of your pedals if you're connecting it to an existing amp? It isn't. No, I look, it really depends, right? If you're using time-based effects like delay, modulation, or reverb, even, all of those three will sound great going through an effects loop, and it will save you having to buy a whole bunch of different effects. But what I always find with digital multi-effects processor pedals, on the most part, not all, because there's some exceptions to the rule, if you need to turn up the volume or the tone control or the volume control, sometimes you've got to dive into stuff or click a button, then be able to dial it in. And if you're playing live, that's not always ideal. There's not a huge difference in terms of tone between like a digital tube screamer or clon versus an actual tube screamer or clon, but it's the way that it reacts, and it's also the simplicity of analog effects. For me personally, I'll never replace my current pedalboard with a digital version. There's not many that have the same sort of simplicity. There's all-in-one solutions that are great, that are more analog than digital, from Nuix and Tech 21 and all that kind of stuff, and Kalen and a few other brands, but none that would really make me just go, oh yeah, I'm done with analog effects, let's use this, because it's, at least for me, pretty personalized. I like one overdrive tone mixed with another overdrive tone, or potentially this other one. If it doesn't have those, I wouldn't use them, right? So I spent enough time playing with different pedals and effects to know what I love, and my pedal board's essentially been the same now for years. It's pretty much 5 years I've been sort of cycling in and out one pedal, one delay pedal in and out, and one overdrive pedal in and out. The Royal Flush always stays there, my Vibler stays there, my tuner stays there. And yeah, I like to know exactly what's coming out of my gear. And I make it work in any amp now. So anytime you've got too many options, if you don't already know what you like, it can be way too confusing and stop you from the process of playing. It's like, how can I fiddle with this to make it better? So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, I should also point out, if you're someone who's playing in a situation where you're doing massive gigs or large gigs where there's a sound guy, a foldback, you got earpieces in and all that kind of stuff, you can get away without using an amp on stage, whether for, you know, there's any number of digital multi-effects processor pedals or Kempers and all that. But you need a particular situation, and if you're just playing live at a venue that doesn't have all that stuff, it's a world of pain. I've tried it, it's not worth it. All right, sorry if I've missed Punk Rocket. Let me go back up, mate. I'll see if I can find it. Now, just to let you know too, the chat here doesn't always show me. Ah, here we go. All right, I did miss it. Nick says Chris Kane's the real deal. He absolutely is. Sorry, guys. I try my best to get to the comments. Sometimes they just scroll up a page and I don't notice. I'm learning a solo that's in E minor pentatonic scale, but I can't figure out the notes. Can you take a look? Bit of good by Starlord. I can't really do that right now, man, because the copyright thing will get it, and that'll be the end of the live stream. So, unfortunately, I can't. But don't be just if you know the minor pentatonic scale. There's a few notes that are one note either way of it that will generally be the note you're kind of looking for. Because it's the E minor pentatonic scale, it doesn't mean that's what they're playing. They could be playing the Dorian scale or something like that, or playing a half step note here or there. So just experiment around and see if you can try and make mistakes until you find out what it is. I'm sure there'll be tab on it if it's a popular song. I don't know the tune, but yeah, just experiment around. The mistakes make you work out what sounds good. It's how I found a lot of those. Oh, I don't even have a guitar out at the moment. I packed up. I actually cleaned up. I was just going to show you some of the extra notes there, but yeah, just have a fiddle around and see how you go, or check some tabs, and then you'll go, oh, hang on, that's not in the minor pentatonic scale. Why does that work? And there's always a reason. That's why that scale, as great as it is for everyone to learn, you shouldn't get stuck just playing that scale. I always say, like, look at the blues scale is a great option, the one they call the blues scale. It's got a lot of half-step notes, and you can play notes that aren't even in that scale and make it sound great because of how the major scale works and all that kind of thing. But anyway, yeah. Unfortunately, I cannot play other people's music on the stream. It's just not going to work. All right, we've got Steve from Scotland. Welcome, mate. Thank you for joining in. Awesome stuff. Michael says he has several amps that he doesn't really need. My PV Classic 5050 is one of my favorites as it's stereo, works well with modeling. Awesome stuff. However, those 8 EL84s get loud through my 2x4x12 cabs. My two 4x12 cabs. Man, that would be an absolute monster. Yeah, my Classic 50s are 4x10, so it's just a single combo. It's surprisingly not huge for a 4x10. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see if this is going to ruin everything. There it is down there, so you can sort of see it. But it's a little bit bigger than the other amps, but it's not. It's less than a third bigger, which I think it's about a quarter larger, not even. So I don't consider that to be too brutal, but mate, the Classic 50s are super cool. Who do you think are the biggest consumers of new gear, working musicians versus home players? Home players. 100%. And the reason why is unless you're a high-level gigging musician, you're not going to be able to afford a lot of the gear if that's all you do. Now, there's a lot of other revenue streams for musicians, but unfortunately, a lot of them don't have that. It's just because they went all in with music. And, you know, doing a few gigs a week, unless you're a high-level player, isn't going to be enough of an income to buy this kind of stuff. So, yeah, back in the day when I was just trying to gig full-time, it was a nightmare. It was like, this sucks. It's fun, but then it's a world of pain. So I'm glad I kind of found it a bit of an out with that, to be honest. I love playing music, but the gigging scene, especially where I live, you played the same 5 venues every other blues band has played here. It's kind of done. And then you start getting into those, you know, higher level gigs or shows or festivals. But the amount of bands who are actually doing that and then make their mark on it are pretty minimal. So, yeah, I would absolutely say home players. 100%. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Anyway, let us know what you think. Now, if you're a Mark Knopfler or a Clapton or someone who's been around forever and you're making millions of dollars, it's a very different conversation. Have I ever come across a lefty Starcaster? I think I have, actually. Let me have a quick look. Let's have a quick look here. I just want to make sure I got the model right. Oh, you know what? It might have been a Squier. No, you know what it was? I think I saw a Tokai or a Japanese version of one of these when I was in Hawaii a few years ago. Maybe Dan's Guitars or something like that. It could be there. I could be confusing it with somewhere else, but the Starcaster guitars are kind of like a, what would you call it? Like an ES335 style electric with a kind of a weird headstock. You guys can look that up. Once I get the setup working properly again, I'll be able to share the desktop. I was very close to not going live today because I had to reinstall all this stuff. But so I don't think the desktop sharing is going to work by the looks of it. But yeah. Interesting guitars. I don't think I've definitely not plugged one in. I know that much. But I may have seen a clone of one is my guess. How often do I change the strings on the guitars? If you play quite often, don't play a particular guitar much period of time. Usually if I keep them in the case, they last a decent amount of time. I sort of, usually when they go black. So if I can see the G, B, or E string are basically lost all the shine, they go. And that could be through a number of different reasons, but generally that's what I do. I don't do it often enough, but this is the thing. I've got a few guitars in the cupboard here, so I can grab another one and just make that work for a while. But there comes a point where I sit down and look at it and go, I got to change these strings, and whether I'm going out to play live as well is another deciding factor. If they look like they're starting to go black and I'm doing a host spot somewhere or whatever, then I'm taking a set of new strings on the guitar with me, because yeah, I just sort of eyeball it. I don't think there's really any particular amount of time. If you leave your guitars out, you're in a high humidity area, then you'll go through strings like nothing else. All my guitars are in the cupboard. They're in cases. They've also got little silica gel packets in there as well, out of paranoia from my last place, which had high humidity. Even though it was cold, it was still high humidity, and they used to go through strings like nothing else. So just eyeball it. Once they feel crusty on the shiny strings, not the wound ones, but the other ones, that's usually the time I would replace them. Hey, we've got Al here from New Jersey. Welcome, Al. Thanks for joining in, mate. All right. What's my favorite speaker for a Traynor YCV40? I always found those amps to lack a little bit of low end. I'm a big fan of the YCV40s. I would say the Eminence Swamp Thing or the Texas Heat. The Texas Heat is probably the speaker that I use the most in the Traynor on my second one. So they come stock with a Celestion 7080. And it's not a bad speaker for that amp, but you could definitely upgrade it with the Texas Heat will give it more bottom end. It will also take a little bit of that sort of shrilly tops you can sometimes get out of them. Now, it depends on, the YCV40's got the 6L6 tubes. There's a YCV50B, which is like an EL84 version. And that one, it's an EL34 version. And that one has a different kind of sound to it. So I would say in that one, definitely the Texas Heat kind of is very favorable to the headroom of that amp and just overall oomph. I tested it with the Swamp Thing. You could easily just put in like, one of their higher end YCV40s use the Celestion, what are they called? The Vintage 30s. A lot of people like the Vintage 30 sound. I'm not as convinced by those as others. I think you could probably find a speaker that works a bit better, maybe a creamback, something like that as well. But yeah, the one that I used in my last blue one that I had was the Texas Heat. All right, let's go down the chat. All right, we'll just have a drink here. All right, we got South Guitars. I have a new guitar day yesterday, an LTD TE1000 Black Blast. Very cool, man. Oh, that's great. I don't know much about LTD guitars. I don't know much about them other than I know of them. So yeah, congrats, mate. That's awesome. Squier guitars are making some lefties now. Maybe you can get lucky. Yeah, they've never really super excited me. Not because they're like bad guitars or anything. I've just never really gone, oh wow, I've got to try those. But if I get an opportunity to play lefty, I'll definitely take that up and keep an open mind. There's only so many sort of like clones of Strats, Teles, or 335s or Gibsons and stuff that I'm sort of interested in trying these days. It kind of doesn't excite me that much unless there's something very different about them. But I've heard they're like excellent value for money, so I'd be happy to try them out if I ever get a chance to try one. Hey, Nella from north of Detroit. Welcome, mate. Awesome stuff. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, here we go. We have a Swamp Thing in my Blues Deluxe. Sounds amazing. It's a great speaker for that amp. I mean, I've had one in mind for years. I don't even know how long it's been now. It's like one of the best upgrades ever. Creamback's another good alternative to that, but you've got to have the bass most of the way down with that. Red, White, and Blues is another one that would work well in the Traynor and also in the Blues Deluxe. So yeah, the Eminence speakers make such a great difference to the tone. Like they're by far my favorite replacement speaker brand. They're louder than most of the other brands. They got more headroom, so you get less speaker distortion and fizz. And man, they cut a mix like nothing else. So yeah, I just bought another Texas Heat for my Bandit. Thing friggin' chops your head off. Like not in a bright way. It's got so much oomph. It's awesome. It's completely transformed the amp, and it already sounded great. Four, welcome back, mate. He says late, but wants to say hello and cool Zach Meyers video. Hey, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, that guitar was, you know, again, as I said at the start, it surprised me I liked it more than the Silver Sky. And then I was surprised I liked it more than mine. I'm not going to get rid of my Custom 24. I feel like it's just been such a great guitar. And it was like the Korean model, the first one they made and all that kind of stuff. And there'd be no reason for me to part ways with that. It's such a great guitar, even though it doesn't get used as much anymore because the Kiesel is like in a whole another dimension as it should be for the price. But yeah, that Zach Meyers one's pretty close. Like it's right there. The playability's phenomenal. I know nothing about Zach Meyers. I looked him up and I went, oh, I thought he might have been a metal guy. I had no idea. Usually endorsements go to metal guys, and I thought, what am I doing with this guitar? I looked him up and I listened to about 8 seconds of him playing. I thought, all right, good. He's not a shredder. At least not from the stuff I saw. It looks like he plays sort of rootsy music and stuff. And I thought, all right, this is cool. So I just went and did my thing, and I looked him up again after the videos just to not mess with my head too much. And I was like, yeah, this thing's pretty great. And yeah, like I don't get to keep that video. They didn't pay me or anything. So I didn't get to keep the guitar, I should say, from the video. And that video wasn't sponsored. It went all back right after I filmed it. And it was very impressive. Very impressive. Hang on. I'll be 1 sec, guys. I've got someone at my door. Just bear with me. Sorry about that. Just a delivery. Rhiannon's gone, so she's out doing stuff. All right, so GRB Aquatic says, I clean my strings with a bit of green pot scrubby. Brings strings back perfect in seconds. I only play guitar at home, not good enough for it to matter. Yeah, well, that's whatever works, man. The stuff I use to keep my strings in good shape are these. Every time I buy these from Sky Music, they're like, why do you buy so many of these? I'm like, I use them all the time. I use them when I play live, every time I film a guitar, all that kind of stuff. Anytime I'm doing a pedal demo, I'm spraying this crap all over my stuff, and it's great. It really does help keep the sort of longevity of the strings a little bit better. My PRS SE Custom 24 has the Trem's set up floating, not my choice usually. Is yours floating or decked? It's decked. I ended up just getting it. I think I got another spring or something and just tightened it up till it sat flush. That was it. And I can still use the whammy bar, but I don't think it's actually floating. I can go take a look, actually. It's probably worth doing. All right. Let's take a look at this. Yep. Sort of got it sitting flat there, so hopefully you can see that. So there it goes. It's going in my face. It's the face detection autofocus. But yeah, I've got it sort of sitting flush, and then when I want to use the bar, I hardly have to move it. But I've got it set up so when I do double stops, you can see it's not moving. If I'm bending 2 or 3 strings at once, it doesn't actually move. For me, that's a perfect setup because if you break a string, it's not going to go out of tune, but it's also not going to overbend if you're bending the strings. Man, it's a great guitar. I should be playing this more. All right. Knock at the door during a live, yeah. I get a lot of deliveries here for stuff, so yeah, unfortunately I've just got to sign for things a lot of the time and all that kind of stuff. PRS SE DGT also came with the floating trem. They're great guitars, those things as well. Very cool. If I've missed any questions, folks, just shoot me a @intheblues, because I know that looks like the chat just scrolled down. Someone was asking about the Artist. Here we are. Thunderbird. Welcome, mate. He says, what speaker to use for the Artist Tweed 20R? You know, I've tried like 3 or 4 speakers in that amp, and I went back to the bog standard Celestion 7080. It just works better. I tried a V-Type, I tried a Eminence Wizard, I tried the Texas Heat, and the Swamp Thing, and the stock speaker just, it like lost its character. And for whatever reason, in that amp, the Celestion 7080 speaker is the best. It's the best one I've tried. Now, I haven't tried them all. Obviously, you could probably try like a vintage 30 and see how you go with that. But yeah, out of all the speakers I've tested, that just works. And I have no idea why I can't get a better tone out of a different speaker with that amp. It's like the perfect match, which is pretty rare. I've always said, like, Celestion 7080s to me feel like the amp manufacturer put no R&D into speaker choice. They just went, oh, let's just put one of them in. They're cheap. But actually, they're pretty decent speakers. That was the amp that kind of made me change my mind on the speaker a little bit. Because up until then, I always felt like it was a bit of a cop-out. And the Celestion 7080s, like Fender were putting them in their DeVilles back in the day, and you'd listen to another DeVille with different speakers, and that other DeVille would kill it. And it was always like that. But I've tested the Artist TweedTone 20 enough now to know that I haven't been able to find a better speaker for it. Not to say that there isn't one, but I think if you're going to go down the rabbit hole of speakers with that amp, you'd probably want to find something with a British voicing. That would be my 2 cents with that one. Excuse for burping into the thing. The beginning of Shane's new horror. Hey, that's a good idea, mate. Thank you. Yeah, no Halloween movie this year. Unfortunately, it's not happening. The last one was a solid idea, at least from my opinion. But yeah, we didn't come up with enough of a solid. I didn't come up with enough of a solid idea to put anything together. And when you don't have a proper idea for something like that, it can go bad fast. So it's next. I'll try and do one next year. That would be the goal, or for something anyway. We'll just throw one in for fun at some point. Eric says, I don't know what it is, but pictures of left-handed Tele is tricking me. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm so guitar agnostic these days. I see right-handed ones, I think, oh, that looks cool. I see left-handed ones, I'm like, that looks cool. Maybe because I'm a lefty. Have I tried a Fender Deluxe Reverb amp? I have. I mean, I used to own 2 Deluxe Reverbs. I had a 65 and a 68. I never found the need to replace the speaker in those, to be honest. The Jensen's are great. You put a C12K in there. Jensen C12K. And you're pretty much sorted. You know, some people prefer different speakers in those amps, but, you know, if you really need to put something else in, check out like the Celestion A-type speakers if you've got a silver panel one. But yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of felt like the Jensens are pretty great. Have I tried warehouse speakers? I have. I'm sort of like got mixed emotions about them. I think they're okay. I think they're like a good upgrade in some amps and not in others. But again, I haven't tried them all. I've only tried the ET65 and what was the other one I tried? The was it a Celestion? Might have been like a vintage 30 style speaker. They're good. I mean, some amps where you need to sort of reduce the top end a little bit, they're great. They're good in solid state amplifiers, the warehouse or the ET65. But yeah, without trying like 20 of them, I can't really say that. All I know is I've had such good results from Eminence speakers, and I ended up selling my ET65 to a friend of mine that for me, for what I like, the high headroom speaker thing for me is the way to go. If you did get the Zach Meyers, would you switch the volume and pot locations? Or try to get used to it? Yeah, it's a good question. I was sort of like trying to work that out. I feel like if that's your only humbucker guitar, you get used to it. But I've got a number of different guitars where that would completely confuse me. Like every time, I still get confused using my Flying V because the second volume control, well, one of them's in a different spot, and it always messes with my head. It takes. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to really remember that this is the volume control. So I would say I'd most likely switch it out just because I've got other guitars with a similar setup. It would make more sense for me, but yeah, again, it depends on your current guitar lineup. If you're used to playing Strats and Teles and you buy it, you could leave it as it is and you'd be okay. But it would take me I never got used to it throughout the video. Every time I did like the turning the volume down section like 5 times because I kept turning the wrong pot. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that messes with me big time. What's my favorite neck pickup for a Les Paul? Burst buckets. Gibson burst buckets. Just buy a burst bucket. You're going to be loving it. They're the best. Now, that's for basically any Gibson guitar. I think they're great. Burst buckets have, to my ear, more snap. They're less fat sounding, which makes them a clearer sound. They're super dynamic. No buzz, just a great pickup. So Flying V's, anything. Put them in any Gibson, you're laughing. Thoughts on playing blues jams with harmonica players, like or dislike? Now, the only harmonica players I tend to enjoy playing with are ones that can sing really well because they're aware of space. Most harmonica players, sadly, like a bad guitarist or a bad piano player, will overplay. They'll be soloing over everything. They'll be getting in the way of the vocals. And no offense to most harp players, but I find a lot of them have been playing at home. It feels like, to my ear, they've been playing at home for a couple of weeks and then they hit the blues jam. You need more time. It's like an instrument to learn when you don't want to put in the time. And I've had so many bad experiences with harmonica players over the years. And there's not to say that there's not good ones in the mix. I played with plenty of good ones that can sing great and they have space and it adds to the sound. But I find it very, like, I think the problem I have with harp is it's like the approach that harmonica is the brass section. So it's like non-stop, but over everything and all that kind of style. And it's like, give it some space, man. Like, yeah, it's a hard, I don't know. I gigged with a harp player for a little while and all of us were done with it after about 2 gigs and no one wanted to say anything. I was like, man, this harp's killing me. And they go, oh, thank God. Yeah, same. So that was it. It does, when it's good, it can add some really great niceness to the mix. But if it's bad, there's nothing worse. That's my 2 cents on it anyway. All right, we might wrap this up shortly, guys. I'll timestamp the live stream coming up. I'll just take these last few questions here. We got MW from Germany. Welcome, mate. Germany is one of my favorite places. It was an amazing place to go. Shane Becomes Cursed is now right-handed and only play elevator music. Hey, that would be kind of cool, man. How about that? Yeah, I have to come up with something. I got so many weird things going in my head from years of horror movies, and I've got the zombie Fulci mask over here. I got another one I bought a while back, and it's yeah, I don't know. I need to come up with a solid idea of like a concept with an end result, and sometimes you start at the end and work backwards sometimes. But yeah, it's a bit of a process. Those kind of videos take a while to put together, and I generally visualize it all ahead of time. So I do all the storyboarding and all that kind of stuff. The basic sort of stick figure things, but I'm thinking of the shots and with locations and all that. So there's a bit more to it than I think people realize, but it's great fun. I love doing that kind of stuff. Any plans to come to New Zealand? I'd be happy to hook up a gig if you do come to Wellington. Hey, thanks, Nick. I appreciate that, mate. As of right now, I don't have any plans. I'd like to go there at some point. It's been on the list for years, and I don't know why I haven't gone. I always think it's going to be like way too cold, which it probably isn't, right? It's just a place that I need to eventually get to. I've only been to the airport and out several times. So, yeah, that's all I've had experience with. But, yeah, I'll get there at some point, mate. Thank you. Custom buck is probably my favorite neck pickup. Very cool, man. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the burst buckers. Every time I've played a Les Paul or my Flying V or any Gibson with burst buckers, it always sounds great. They just have a bit more clarity. There's less of that sort of mid-heavy kind of thing that I don't really love about some Les Pauls. They tend to sound pretty muddy a lot of the time. It depends on your setup and your amp and all that kind of stuff. Like the vintage humbuckers sound great. Like some of those underwound kind of humbuckers where they're more voicey, they got less of that really thick mids thing. I like those too. But yeah, the burst buckers are kind of like the easiest ones to replace where you know you're going to get a good sound. Hey, Addicted to Gears here. Welcome, mate. Hope you're doing well. Your live streams are the other one I caught, but I think they're like almost at a time now if you stream at your old time that I'll be able to make it to, because I think the time change shift now that happened last week works for us. So I'll see you on your live stream coming up. A lot of guys here watch Tony's channel as well. Very cool. There we go, John. He says, thanks to everyone in chat today. Please hit the thumbs up button before you leave. Hey, thank you, John. Helps the channel a lot. Hope to see you again on the next one. Thanks, mate. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Yeah, we'll wrap this up. I just wanted to get on for an hour today. I've got a couple more videos coming up for this month, and I'll be live streaming probably once every 7 or 8 days or something like that for a while. Next month, I'm taking a quick break in the middle of the month, so I won't be live streaming then, but I'll have some content for you that will be hopefully a little bit different if it all goes to plan. Yeah, so there's some good stuff coming up. And I'll just take this last one. Michael says, never heard you talk about guild guitars. I have one. Unfortunately, there's never any lefties. I've seen one left-handed guild guitar. I have showcased them on Guitar Search Saturdays, which is my shop walkthrough series. One of the ones I think I showcased it on was Wickham Road Music in Florida. If you missed that, you can go check it out there. Great guitars, but unfortunately not a lot of lefties, and I'm at the mercy of being able to showcase what I can find as a southpaw, as they say. So, all right, guys, we'll wrap it up. Thanks again for hanging out. I appreciate it. And yeah, leave a thumbs up. Check your notifications again, folks. And if you like any of my other videos that I post, please click the like button. It makes a huge difference for stuff to get found. It really does. So thank you again. And I will catch you on the next one. Hopefully I'm a bit more awake than the last couple of live streams. Sorry about that. I'm not going to do those super early ones anymore. And the next one will be at the tail end of the day. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys.